Well, a very good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, wherever you might be in the world. Welcome to the channel, or if you're a returning visitor, welcome back. Thank you for being part of my journey. I'm a little bit late today loading this video, but I'll run through the regular stuff. If you're returning, of course, you'll have heard this spiel before. If you're new to the channel, you probably won't know that what I do, my videos can tend to run a little bit long, and so I try to make them user-friendly. So I put chapter timings in the description for you to just jump to the areas of interest for you. Basically, I invite people to participate. Put your comments up. If you're familiar with the use of any of the crystals that I do videos about, I'm always interested to hear about other people's experiences and to share my understanding, information, and knowledge with people, just as part of pooling information together and helping us grow. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about black obsidian. I'm kind of focused on the obsidian at the moment because there's so many different varieties and because I'm growing my collection. However, before I get into this, black obsidian is actually a stock standard of my collection, and it has been for many years, mainly for, well, all because of its protective elements or attributes, actually. And I tend to use them as bracelets myself, but I'll talk about that in a little while. Let's take a look at black obsidian for now. So you can see here that these are actually like little points or towers of black obsidian, but it does come in a wide range of shapes and forms. You know, it can be tumbled, it can be the spheres. As I mentioned before, I have mine as bracelets, and it's a beaded bracelet that I usually rely upon, and I wear, without getting too far ahead of myself, I actually wear them as protective bracelets when I'm doing energy work. But what I wanted to talk about, I guess, and draw to your attention is it's actually a very powerful crystal as far as attributes go. We're going to be talking about shadow work in a moment, but for your information, because my friend had a shop and I used to help out in his premises, and that he had a whole showcase dedicated to black obsidian. It is so powerful that those people that have worked with crystals a lot, I've actually seen people that will give the black obsidian cabinet a wide berth simply because you do have to have a certain amount of stamina if you're going to work with it. So it's kind of like giving you a caution right from the get-go. Just be mindful when you use black obsidian. There may be a little bit short phase of a emotional roller coaster. I'm going to explain that to you more when we look at the metaphysical attributes. But yeah, it is quite a powerful crystal if you're into the metaphysical attributes. So most people will tell you that the black obsidian is associated with the base chakra, and while that is correct, and I don't disagree with that, I also feel that it's more than the base, although it's black. Okay, so the first thing is when we look at this image, we see the base chakra as being red. Well, sometimes it's represented with the color black, and that black can relate to the earth star as well, which is below your feet. From where I sit and my understanding of how black obsidian works and its attributes, I actually believe it's associated with black, which is about your survival instincts of the base chakra, but also because it has this capacity to unearth the emotional blocks and barriers. Then I would say it's also associated with unblocking the sacral chakra and also the crown chakra, because the crown chakra is associated with what we might call maladaptive thinking, beliefs, distorted perceptions, and all of that kind of thing. It is, in summary, black obsidian is kind of a revelations. It makes you face and confront the truth and to review and reflect on the beliefs that we currently hold. Where did they derive from, and how is that impacting on our life right now? So just to sort of recap there, my belief is that it's associated with the red, the base, the orange, which is emotional, the chakras, and with the crown, which can be represented by white or the lilac color. But of course, black obsidian is only black. So while black obsidian has got a really diverse range of healing attributes associated with it, it is considered, like I say, a stone of truth and revelation. So if you've been suppressing aspects of your personality, you like to live in denial, you don't want to acknowledge some of those traits as being part of who you are, because I'm just thinking, actually, there's a scenario that came to me more recently this week. You know, we all have the face that we show the world, and then we have that little bit that we keep hidden inside of us, and those can be the bits that we don't like about ourselves. And then beneath that, there's a further layer, that subconscious layer that informs and shapes our beliefs and behaviors. And so when we talk about stone of truth and revelations, it is about confronting the truth of who and what you are right now today, and then being totally honest with yourself. Do you like those attributes? If you don't like them, that's an opportunity to change. This is all part of the healing process, bringing to conscious awareness that which is hidden. And so this is why I call it a crystal of revelations. So as far as that shadow work and the shadow aspect is the duality, I guess, of the face to the world and that which we suppress. So the shadow work, or what some of us call the shadow, some of us also call the ego. It's an ego aspect. It's not necessarily traits that we like. I've said that. I'm just thinking how I'm going to go into this. Okay, so for example, I know somebody who's very, very passive and peaceful, and that's the face that they show the world. Always sweet, always smiling, you know, very much loved and lovable. But those people that are close to this woman actually know that she has got another side to her, and it takes a lot to get that other side to surface, which it's usually a self-defense mechanism. And when that person comes to the fore, or that other aspect, it can actually be very, very aggressive and quite unpleasant, shall we say. So suffice to, you know, credit to this person that they can actually master that energy, if you like. There's a certain level of emotional self-mastery that this person has achieved. And so when that little inner beast comes to the surface, or they feel that it's starting to arise, they're able to pull themselves back, withdraw, control that, and, you know, because they've got emotional maturity there, and not have that come out. But all that is emotional management. That's not emotional healing. The emotional healing occurs when we're able to let go of those patterns and no longer repeat them. So this is all part of the shadow work. And for Black Obsidian, this is why it can be a daunting crystal to use, because a person can be trying to deny those aspects of themselves, but when you work with Black Obsidian, it's not going to let you deceive yourself, okay? It's not going to let you delude yourself that actually you've got it under control, it's fine, it's no longer part of who you are. It's going to make you wake up and say, well, actually, I manage that, but that is still a part of my personality that actually I want to release all of that anger, which is the orange chakra, and send healing light into it, so that, you know, we live by that law of acceptance, non-judgment, and non-reaction, I guess. So it's very much a transformational stone. The other thing is it's quite beneficial for those people that are suffering from addiction. I need to just have a quick cough, sorry. But I'm going to go into the caution part here, despite the fact that my dog is running backwards and forwards and has just found his squeaky toy. We shall ignore him. Okay, so not only is Black Obsidian this revelations type crystal, it is one that enhances life will, and that is the desire to live. So it's very good for people that have got mood disorders and struggle with end of life issues, or a desire to end life. I'm being oblique here because of YouTube censorship. So if you know somebody that's got mood or personality disorders that include perhaps harmful behaviors, this kind of crystal would actually be very, very good for them. But they will need to be supported as they start working with this crystal, so they can bring this unresolved emotional stuff to the surface and actually deal with it and let it go. Because it's like, I guess, having you know, the cup of water, the body being the cup of water, and the darker emotions is the muddy water. You've got to get the mud out so that you can fill it with the pure, clear, clean, bright water. And this is what we're doing with Black Obsidian when we work with it. So a key thing to, when you work with it, is just being aware it can have this really unsettling approach to it. And the best way to describe it, as far as you've got to prepare a little bit to use for it. So, for example, a couple of the ladies that ran past the Black Obsidian cabinet at my friend's business, this was the first time that I realised the impacts for some people with using black obsidian. The woman had said to me, because I called her out, I was like, what's your problem? I mean, it's just black obsidian. And she said to me, oh, she's had some experiences with black obsidian, which had left her basically feeling very emotionally overwhelmed. And so she has learned that, yeah, she'll never not work with it. She loves black obsidian, but before she's got to work with it, she actually needs to psychologically prepare herself and I guess to put the supports in place in case she ends up bottoming out. So I guess if you've got some really deep, unresolved emotional trauma in your body, in your entire system, it is important to put those supports in place. And so the advice is at least be aware of the potential impacts for some people when using black obsidian. If we don't have all of that really deep down trauma, it's not going to be as traumatic for us if we use the black obsidian as part of doing raising our own personal energy and removing limitation. So the other thing is too, it is recommended that perhaps keep a crystal around that helps to neutralize some of the emotional trauma that you get with, or you can get with, black obsidian. What I saw was a recommendation that you use clear crystal. That would not be my advice, okay? Because my understanding is that clear quartz acts as an amplifier, so that would make the experience of emotional release more intense from where I sit, although somebody else has recommended that. I would probably recommend, instead of the clear quartz, working with the black obsidian, selenite, or even a piece of kyanite, because I think that will help. It's kind of like, I suppose energetically, if I was to try and use a metaphor, it would be like having the mug with the dirty water, and while it's washing out, the blue kyanite is purifying what's left in the cup and, just making it more peaceful and calmer, more, it helps to keep you stable while you're doing this deep dive into the subconscious. What else can I say here? Not a lot, apparently. I think I've kind of covered it from an introductory type perspective. So let's now take a look at zodiac associations. I'm going to touch lightly on this because I'm trying to keep the video a bit shorter because, as I said, this is a crystal that I've got a lot of experience with, so I can do a bit of a waffle when we're talking about black obsidian, or any crystal actually, but particularly black obsidian for this. Anyway, when it comes to the zodiac, yes, there are recommendations that people of the star signs Scorpio, Sagittarius and Capricorn work with black obsidian. Frankly, I don't know why it's a recommended crystal for them. I can't really see why they would be the standout star signs, if you like, for using black obsidian. But just a reminder that when it comes to the astro, from where I sit, is you don't allow it to influence what crystals you buy. Doesn't matter what your star sign is. If you feel drawn to a crystal and you feel that you need to have it as part of your collection, then that is the crystal for you. And best if you can handle them before you make the purchase and pick the right crystal for you. So just a little bit of mineral information here. When we talk about black obsidian, it's actually, I'm not a geologist, I've got to put that out in the first instance. So I'll just stumble along giving the information that I know as a layperson, which is it is formed from the lava or as part of the lava from volcanic eruptions. And that explains to a certain level why black obsidian carries these transformational properties. Anything that is associated with volcanoes is generally considered to be transformational and quite volatile, right? Because obviously the volcano erupts, the lava flows, somehow or other the obsidian forms within it. And the obsidian, of course, has a range of different colours. It comes in lots of colours, not just the black, but of course black obsidian is black. There's no mistaking it. From a hardness perspective, it's about a 5 to 6, so it's reasonably durable. It is glassy, it's a form of glass, and it can be translucent, as in if you hold it up to the light you can see through it, but quite often it's so dark and black that you actually can't see through it. From a toxicity perspective, my understanding is that it's not really known. Some people say there's none involved in it, but I think if you're looking at anything that's been lying in the dirt, there may be perhaps trace minerals or whatever that is associated with obsidian. And if you know the answer to that, please feel free to let us know. As far as the locations go, I believe it's fairly abundant globally, and there's probably going to be a lot more locations than what I've put here: Mexico, US. Anywhere there's been a volcano, I'm pretty sure you're going to find some obsidian, whether it's black or otherwise. As far as buying tips go, look, from a stock standard perspective, and I'll just be really general with this, is whatever you're buying, if you're buying off a platform or buying online, then the straight questions are, how big is it? How much does it weigh? How tall? How thick? How wide? All of those types of things to let you know what you're going to get for your buck. Then the other thing is, if you're buying from overseas and you're importing it, do a currency conversion. More recently, I had a classic case of seeing an item overseas that I didn't know was for sale in Australia. And when I saw how expensive it was being retailed for in the US, not in the US, in Europe with euro dollars, I actually saw I was able to get a lot cheaper in Australia, and there's no currency conversions, and freight costs, of course, were reduced. It was far more financially viable to buy it locally than to import it. So that's the first thing. Look at your currency conversions, look at your freight. Make sure you've not got any hidden fees there, because if you're doing a currency conversion, there's always going to be a fee charged for that anyway. And then the other thing is get your eye looking at it. I think without really checking it out and doing my research on this, I'm pretty confident that you would get fake black obsidian on the market. But because it's glass, really, at the end of the day. But what I understand is that with the genuine stuff, it's not going to have bubbles of air in it, where the fake stuff probably does. But if you've got answers to that, no more, certainly leave your comments up. When it comes to looking at types of black obsidian, this is why I've got these images here. The ones that are called arrowheads, my understanding is that they're actually carved from black obsidian. Some people, I think years ago, you used to be able to buy them, and they were supposed to be formed genuinely as part of, in the US, Native Americans or whatever, having them as arrowheads, shooting arrows, or that they were naturally formed. I really am not 100% on that. But for the modern market, I believe most of the arrowheads, if not all of them, are actually hand carved. I'm open to correction. The Apache tears you will often see on the market, and they are black obsidian as well. But the genuine ones that we're looking at here, these are basically ones that are taken out of the ground, and they've got a bit of a mineral coating on them, I believe, and this is what the white is. Now, quite often when we buy them on the market, they've actually been tumbled and polished and got rid of that white stuff, so they look this beautiful, beautiful black that we can actually find around on the market. It's quite often carved, by the way, which is why I've got the image up of the angel here. So yes, you get it in all shapes and forms. So if you really want to know more about the spiritual metaphysical attributes of black obsidian, you can just pause the screen here, or when I'm finished talking, because there's a lot here to cover and it will take quite a bit of time. If you've got questions, by all means ask them, and I will certainly respond to them as best I can. I've already talked about the shadow work aspect, and why it's important is actually because it does expose any blocks that create limitation in our lives, and those limitations can be the negative thinking, the belief that we're not good enough, or that there's something somehow wrong with us, and it helps to shift past those things. The other one, of course, that I feel is standout is the recommendation for protection. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I use black obsidian bracelets when I remember. If not black obsidian, I'll use black tourmaline bracelet on each wrist, and that's part of shielding my own personal aura from taking on board other people's energy, especially when I'm doing work. But you could use it as a talisman. It's recommended as a talisman against psychic attack. When it comes to the psychic gifts, it is recommended, or apparently has been used, to do what they call the mirroring. I think which is scrying. So usually if you were going to use black obsidian to do your psychic work, you would have it as a flat slab. That's the recommendation anyway. This is not ways that I have used it though. The other thing too is if you end up following the path of psychic surgery, you will have seen if you go into the shops that sell metaphysical tools and all the rest of it, they have what is called wands or surgical scalpels for psychic surgery, and quite often they will have a blade made of black obsidian on it. I mean, not that if it's psychic surgery, you don't go cutting into people's bodies, but actually that's a conversation for a whole different day, psychic surgery. But anyway, yes, it can be used as a psychic surgery tool. Before we talk about the physical attributes, though, it's really important to do this disclaimer bit, which is you wouldn't stop seeing your treating medical professional for any physical health conditions that you might have, or even emotional ones, and rely totally upon your crystals and the energy work. You could use them, generally speaking, safely as a complement, but if you're at all concerned, do have a chat with your doctor about it. And as far as the attributes go on this page, I have a certain level of skepticism to start with. Okay, you'll understand why as we get into it. Look, I do understand that if you've got physical health ailments, that it would be good to work with the black obsidian as part of establishing the underlying causes to it. And as I said, it is recommended for doing psychic surgery if you're into that kind of thing. The business of the snake bite, I've got to wonder, because I am in Australia and we have got a lot of venomous snakes here, and I'm not sure that I would be saying, no, stand back, let me get my black obsidian, if I've been bitten by an eastern brown or something like that. Either way, other benefits are supposed to be the capacity to help with the detoxification and waste elimination from the body, removing toxins. If people suffer from stomach and intestinal problems, it's supposed to be beneficial, supposed to help with deep tissue healing. I'm not sure about that. And if you've got circulation issues, so it might be good for people with diabetes. Where I referred to people with addiction, I believe it helps to actually stabilize. That's the thing, because you've quite often addiction is associated with some extreme mood and behavioral patterning as well. It's supposed to help with the repatterning of your brain, the neural pathways and that kind of thing, to get over, because addiction is more than just a thinking thing. There becomes a physical component to it as well. So it helps with that. I say help, I'm just going to put in there that disclaimer again, the allegedly helps to repattern if people are trying to withdraw from substances. I believe I've actually seen that happening with a person, actually. There was somebody that was going through withdrawals many years ago, and I guess in this instance they were working with the black obsidian, and they were actually working with opalite at the same time, holding both of those in their hand, and you could see the transformation. There was more of us. It was actually at my friend's business place, and we were able to sit or walk past. We weren't trying to make a big scene or draw attention to what was going on with the person that was going through withdrawals, but we were actually able to see the transformation happening on their face, which became one that after a couple of hours, they were completely peaceful, which was really interesting to observe. So when it comes to the attitudes, that's part of that repatterning, the neural pathways that I was talking about on the physical slide. So we're talking about reshaping the thinking. If people are stuck in that, poor me, I've had it so hard, I'm this ongoing victim of other people and all of that kind of stuff, it helps to support transforming those beliefs, if you like to. They are part of my experiences and they redirect me to my power. You know what I mean? So it helps to build willpower, build determination in the face of adversity and to overcome it. That transformation of the thoughts from negative to positive. Where it comes to the emotions, it helps to calm, soothe and balance them. Then there's that releasing of resistance and accepting people for who they are. Stop trying to change other people, because they are who they are. They will change when they're ready. So it lends itself to emotional self-mastery for a person to at least know their triggers and how to manage them. We talked about that earlier, but ideally it's going to go past the self-management and into the transformation of those emotional reactions to find that peace and calmful space. It's said to enhance the decision making, and if you've got power and control issues, to heal those as well. Raise the self-awareness through the acts of reflection, doing that deep dive into your own subconscious and taking a long, hard look at yourself, really. If people have been experiencing intergenerational trauma, it's supposed to help heal that. And so that would actually be a case of mother-father issues or parent-guardian type thing, to get clarity and focus and to overcome mind chatter, and obviously breaking habits and negative behaviours. I've got decision-making in twice. I'll leave it there because I'm not to show that I am human and not above making mistakes, if you didn't already work that out. Anyway, that's just some of the benefits that you could probably expect when you're working with Black Obsidian. Just before I move on to the next slide, though, when we talk about breaking habits and behaviours, there's also that business of the intergenerational where our current personalities are shaped by environment. When we're growing up as children, we do pick up certain aspects and behaviours of our parents. They're not all positives, they're not all negative either. We get positive and negative, and then we have our little ones that we were born with, our inherent traits. But anyway, the transformation of some of these behaviours is actually letting go of the ones that we might have inherited that are not part of the truth of who we are. It's also, by the way, supposed to, did I mention the grounding stuff? I don't think I did. It helps a person to be very grounded and practical and aligns with integrity, walking the talk, not just talking the talk, walking the talk. So when it comes to the suitable uses for Black Obsidian, I've spoken about them a little bit as I've gone through this video anyway, but yes, they are used as surgical blades or scalpel blades for surgical tools, not just psychic surgery. I believe it's actually been used within the medical form as well. I read that. I'm not sure that it's true. If you're a doctor, let us know. Certainly it is used as what is called a mirror. Some people might call it a black mirror because it's Black Obsidian. So it's a scrying tool, and what that means is that if people are seeking to get clairvoyant or prophetic visions, they will actually get themselves into a trance state and then look at the crystal and allow it to reveal images to them. It can be used as an environmental ornament if people are comfortable with it. Certainly you can meditate with it and hold it, use it as a palm stone or a worry stone if you like to use it as part of that aura shielding. You can use it as jewelry items as well. You can use it in gridding, and certainly you can use it as an amulet or a talisman. The thing is, though, if you're going to work with Black Obsidian on a regular basis, it is super, super important that you cleanse it regularly, because it acts where negativity is concerned. It kind of soaks and sucks it up like a sponge with dirty water, and so therefore it needs to be cleaned regularly. You know what it's like. If you were actually to be trying to wipe your bench down with a dirty sponge that's full, you're just going to be transferring germs and bacteria and rubbish all over your kitchen bench. You need to actually rinse that sponge, squeeze it out, make it clean and fresh, and then wipe your bench down again. So it's kind of the same with Black Obsidian. You've got to cleanse it regularly so that it continues to function effectively. As far as messages go for Black Obsidian, I really, my focus and belief, I guess, is on the fact that it's a crystal of freedom. It's about liberation, liberating yourself from those blocks and barriers that you put within. And when we're feeling trapped within our external environment, that's a reflection of something that's going on within us that is keeping us trapped in that situation. And basically, it's a case of, the message I see as being one about if you're drawn to the black obsidian and you're feeling trapped, that the answers lie within you, because you are keeping yourself a prisoner. It's about being open to seeing the solutions, the doorways, the gateways, to seeing the potential and possibilities, and to be open to a healing and a transformation. There's got to be that willingness to commit to it, and an openness to be able to receive that energy and blessings, as well as combined with this desire to be completely honest with yourself in a way that is non-judgmental. Judgment becomes so problematic. When we start to see the truth of who we are, it's very easy to turn around and look at ourselves and go, that was bad, or that was whatever. But the reality is we are all growing all the time. We don't remain the same. We're on this continual path of evolution and change, and we can determine the pathway that we want to be on. This is the free will aspect. And if we see something about ourselves that we don't like, then we have capacity to change that. And that's where that commitment comes in. And then the other part of it is that our past doesn't define our future. So maybe we have been a victim of circumstances or other people, but instead of looking at from that space of I was a victim of, it can be a case of, well, I lived through that. That was part of my experience. That's part of creating who and what I am. And some of these behaviors that I have developed as part of protecting myself, they're no longer necessary because I'm not in that situation anymore. So now I can change and let go of those defensive behaviors. I think in many ways it really is aligned with that serenity prayer of, knowing what to hold on to and what to let go of. Because as I said before, if we're repeating patterns of intergenerational trauma or just trauma, we learn from all of those experiences, and we can grow positively and stronger from those experiences, but holding on to the good bits and letting go of the darker bits, if that makes sense. So it really is, it's about that, knowing what to let go of, knowing what to hold on to, consciously choosing to keep the thoughts, the actions focused on love and kindness, especially towards yourself in this non-judgmental way, and choosing to move into a brighter future. I hope that resonates with somebody. So when it comes to caring for your black obsidian, realistically, and I keep banging on about this through this video, and I'll bang on it again, you've got to clear it energetically on a regular basis, and you can't become complacent with it. The other thing is too that it is a fairly brittle material, so while it has some durability, there is an enhanced chance that if you're the sort of person like me and you pop it in your bra and you forget to take it out, which is just something that so many of us women do, and then take your bra off and it drops out and it hits the bathroom floor, it might actually shatter. So it's more susceptible to shattering than a lot of the other crystals. But going back to, how would you cleanse and clear it? Well, look, it's going to be fine with immersion, water immersion. As if you've got it as a jewelry item and you've got to soak it, I really personally don't know how, let's say you've got a pendant, I don't know how well that would go with as far as chemicals go. I've never used them with my black obsidian because I actually don't use it as a jewelry item that's got the setting on it. Mine's just the beads. But for the beads, yeah, water immersion would be fine. If you like to clear your crystals by putting them out in the rain or soaking them in a bowl of water, they should be fine. And the other thing is too, I really don't know, it's not something that I've tested as to how well black obsidian copes with our Australian sunlight. I would imagine, I'm just very mindful of anything that's got a colour that, generally speaking, it will fade when exposed to harsh sunlight. So I'm always very careful of that. Now, as far as how do you cleanse and clear it and recharge it, I think probably I just go with my own gut instinct. From a general perspective, if I've been using my bracelets for work, I will take them off. I've got a selenite tower, one of the lamps, and it's got the 3 points on it. So once I've been working with my bracelets, when I'm finished, I just take them off and hang them over one of the towers until I'm ready to use them again. But other options, because I've got quite a bit of black obsidian here, I've got the tumbles, which are part of the stock items. So there will be selenite in there. Other times I might use incense. I've got a preference myself for the incense and essential oils. You know, I could chop and change this really. It just depends on how I feel on the day. But whether it's incense or whether it's an essential oil and vaporizing, I tend to lean towards items like sandalwood, frankincense, and myrrh. Also lavender, because they've all got protective as well as clearing qualities to them. Some people might prefer to have the white sage if that's what they're into. I don't really have any of that at the moment, but if I did, yeah, no, I was just thinking to myself as I'm saying this, do I? I used to have a lot of that around. I've probably used it all and I've got to replace it. But anyway, yeah, I will use white sage if I've got it and I feel drawn to it, although that's actually got quite a potent scent to it and not everybody responds well. I'm talking about going into the space or the room. So I've got my crystal room where I might invite people in, and white sage I find can sometimes have a bit of a residual smell in it that actually smells a little bit like marijuana, to be honest. Just saying, just a little offshoot there. But the other thing is too, if you're going to do the smudging, because that's what we call it when we're using the essential oils and the incense, you need to have a window open to allow for the stagnant energy of the room to go out. Other times, anyway, depending on the item that I've got, I might use the selenite rulers, generally polished, because of course I don't want to scratch any of my other crystals. You might have a selenite disc or plate or bowl. You could put your black obsidian tumbles or ornaments on them or in them. And I think that's probably about all I can add to this, except that I do have a video talking about other types of cleansing options. If you're into cleansing with sound or recharging with sound, take a look at that. Otherwise, feel free to put your own comments up about how you cleanse and charge your crystals. I'm sure people would be interested. For now, though, my friends, I'm going to leave this video with you. Well, actually, before I do that, I will do the little bit of editing that I've got to do, upload it so that you can watch it, do it sooner rather than later. I've shared with you as much as I can with this, and hopefully it hits the mark for you. Anyway, until the next video, I'm going to say love you, leave you, catch you on the next one. Bye-bye for now. Oh, I forgot to mention, and thank you for being part of my journey. Take care. Bye-bye.